Back on the Young Turks, Cenk and Anna with you. Matt Diedrich tweets in, by the way, use hashtag TYT Live on Twitter when we are live, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern to talk to us. And also during Rebel headquarters, that's basically 8 to 8:30 Eastern. And even in the postgame, sometimes I'll read tweets. Okay, Matt Diedrich writes in, Illinois is tired of being dicked, referring to Dick Durbin.
Oh, okay.
And Mark Sean Russia writes in, when I get a job again, I'll be able to sign back up for membership. Stop making me feel bad.
Aww.
Mark, no, it's okay, guys. Look, if you watch the show, we love it. And one thing you could always do to help is share. So share the stream, share the videos. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or even Twitter, just hit reply, retweet or share or like, etc. All those help. There are a lot of different ways to help. Sign up for Wolfpack, sign up to help Just Democratic candidates. Help in any way that you can. It doesn't have to just be money. But of course, we do need money to run this operation. So if you do join, we appreciate it, that's all. So tytnetwork.com/join. And again, it's just $10 a month. Same price as the ticket for admission to our Sweet 16 birthday party on Thursday. I'm getting a little nervous as we get closer to it.
Nervous?
Because at the end, I'm gonna do like a little bit of a political speech.
And you're nervous about it?
A little bit, I don't have it prepared yet.
Get out of here.
All right, if you're a member, you could watch at home, okay? So tytnetwork.com/sweet16 if you want to get membership through that. All right, what's next, Anna?
All right. Marco Rubio and Ivanka Trump are taking the issue of paid family leave and championing it. They are trying to find a solution that would basically allow for families to take time off of work in order to take care of their children and not have to deal with the financial burden of not earning any money while they do so. Now, we talked about their upcoming proposal recently, and just to fill you in, just to remind you and catch you up with what they want to do, the Rubio-Trump scheme, which is based on a proposal from the Conservative Independent Women's Forum, new parents would fund their parental leave by tapping into their Social Security benefits early. So just to get a little more specific, parents would get 12 weeks of benefits for what the Independent Women's Forum claims would be 6 weeks or only 6 weeks of Social Security retirement benefits down the line. Okay, so you should watch our previous video on this. We break it down even further, but for the sake of this conversation, I want to focus on how this conservative organization, the Women's Forum or the Independent Women's Forum, is excited about this because it would essentially destroy Social Security. Okay, so let me give you the details on that. Now, if we start borrowing from Social Security, not only would we have to wait even longer in order to retire, it would also further defund a program that is taking care of our elderly right now. And also it would set a precedent. If the government says, oh, you want to take money out of Social Security in order to pay for this and that, well, maybe we can also use it for things like food stamps and other government programs, which conservatives would love, right? But there's also, setting that standard is something that excites these conservatives. So case in point, Carrie Lucas, who wrote for The Federalist and talked about how this would set this great standard and it could solve all the Social Security problems that conservatives hate. Now, the group's managing director, Carrie Lucas, writes that a policy like this could have the added benefit of changing Americans' thinking about Social Security as a bedrock benefit that cannot be changed.
Yeah, so it's worse than you thought. And let me give you more context. 82% of Americans believe there should be paid family leave. 82%. So what do the Republicans want to do? They want to kill two birds with one stone. So they don't actually want you to have paid family leave because that might mean taxes or some corporations chip in. Employees would also chip in, right? But God forbid that corporations should ever pay a dime because they own all these politicians. So instead, they're going to make you pay for it. What part of paid leave is you paying for? Like if you're paying for it, then it's not paid.
It's not paid leave, exactly.
Right, so you're paying through Social Security. Either they're going to make you wait longer before you can retire, or they're going to cut the amount of Social Security you're getting for the rest of your life. So that's mission number one, which is don't actually do paid leave, while pretending to do paid leave because it's actually incredibly popular, okay? And then mission number 2 is if we at the same time we could destroy Social Security by making it a common thing that, hey, if you want to pay for something, just take it out of their Social Security.
That's right.
Keep on taking it out until they can never retire. God, they're loathsome. They're loathsome. They don't work for you. They work for their donors. And it is a great redistribution of wealth to the top.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And by the way, I want to give some conservatives and some libertarians credit, because when this upcoming proposal by Marco Rubio was first reported, there were conservatives and libertarians that thought it was a really bad idea and criticized it because it would destroy Social Security. But again, Carrie Lucas, who is with the Independent Women's Forum, disagrees. She thinks it's great because, again, it would fundamentally change the way that we think of Social Security, and it would essentially set a precedent that would further destroy it. So let me give you more details about what she writes, and then I'll give you some information about her, where she lives, and the type of system she gets to take advantage of. Now, she writes, importantly, unlike other public assistance programs, this Social Security parental leave program isn't a freebie or a handout. People would know that accessing benefits would mean they will have to wait for benefits later. She continues to say, people support public assistance, but they also don't want public assistance to be exploited and used as a long-term crutch. This approach would encourage an important mental shift with lasting implications for government's safety nets more broadly. So she comes at it from the perspective of, all these people with their fraudulent behavior are taking advantage of these safety nets. Like, she comes at it from people are looking for government handouts. Okay, by the way, she has 5 children and she lives in Germany, okay, where they have one of the most progressive paid family leave programs in the world. So I'll give you the details on that in just a minute.
So if she's talking about government handouts in terms of paid family leave, it's not. You get the money from both employers and employees to pay for that paid family leave. And it's then they're gonna get used to it. What do you mean get used to it? It lasts for 12 weeks. There's just no way around it. And it's only when you have a baby. What are you gonna do? Keep having babies just to get paid family leave? Like maybe have like 5 babies because you live in a socialist country that has paid family leave like Germany? I don't know, maybe that was your experience. That's why you're projecting onto others. But no, nobody's having babies to get a non-paid leave that they're gonna have to take out of their retirement. And if you're referring to Social Security, long-term crutch, they get there, they're retired, and they're gonna stay retired, and then we're gonna have to pay them with the money they paid into the system. What crutch? We pay into Social Security. We pay into Medicare. What crutch? No, they hate anything that helps actual citizens.
No, she goes further and just get a load of the assumption that she makes here, which I would argue is not an accurate assumption. She says many Americans are perfectly capable and happy to continue working and tend to be better off financially than ever before. She's talking about individuals who are elderly. She's saying they'd rather work longer, they'd rather postpone retirement. Based on what evidence? Based on what data? She continues.
And they have an amazing social safety net in Germany. So in the comfort of that safety net, she's sitting there telling us about how, no, go back to the mines, okay? Look, if we prefer to work longer, you know what we could do? We could work longer.
That's
Nobody's stopping us. So there's a really easy way to find out if we prefer that, and some people do. No, that's not what you're saying. You're saying you must work longer. Even though you paid into Social Security your whole life, I'm not gonna let you retire. I'm gonna take that money and use it for other things. By the way, they already spent the Social Security money. They spent it on rich, tax cuts for the rich, on wars, defense contractors, oil company subsidies. And now, if you ever watched Man as Hell, the movie about us, there's that scene when I'm on MSNBC and I'm yelling at a former Republican congressman because he's got that smirk on his face and he's saying, but we already spent it. They're the worst.
It gets worse. She says adjustments to the retirement age might not seem so unthinkable when put in the context of these trade-offs. So understand what she's saying there. Conservatives notoriously want to postpone the retirement age as much as possible. That debate comes up every once in a while, and it's so incredibly frustrating. It's like, 65, that's too early for retirement. Let's postpone it to 67, 67 and a half, 68. And so by the time my generation's ready to retire, who knows what age retirement is going to, what age they're gonna decide retirement is acceptable. She continues to say, encouraging people to think about Social Security's assets as if those benefits are their property for use now or at retirement could even encourage people to want to move more in that direction and transform the current pay-as-you-go system into one that pre-funds future benefits and with these with assets that belong to individuals. So again, we all know how Social Security works. I pay into Social Security, but that's not money that goes into a savings account for me personally. It's money that goes toward taking care of the country's elderly. So we don't have elderly homeless people, that was the whole point of Social Security. But under this system, it would be like we have our individual accounts that we borrow from. But what happens if you aren't making a lot of money? What happens if you're unemployed? Does that mean that once you hit retirement age, we're just gonna let you live on the streets? I don't know. It seems like that's the kind of system that she's in favor of. Now, let's talk about Germany, which again is the country that she lives in, and they have significant safety nets there. So for instance, when it comes to paid family leave, there are benefits that start kicking in before the baby is even born. In fact, individuals in Germany get 6 weeks of paid leave prior to the baby being born. After the baby is born, they get 8 weeks, that's guaranteed, right? This jumps to 12 weeks if more than one baby is born. After that, you can work or you can take family leave. That would be up to 3 years, but only 1 year with 60% of your last pay. So it kind of tapers off depending on how long you decide to take that family leave. But think about that. You could take up to 3 years of paid family leave. It doesn't mean you're gonna get your full salary, but you're gonna get a significant amount of money so you can be able to take care of your child. And then, of course, you'll be ready to go back to work. And by the way, one other thing, we have an aging population in the US. It's not as disastrous as it is in Japan right now, but one of the issues that conservatives are worried about is that less people are having children. Yeah, why would people, especially people in my generation, want to have children if we live in the type of country that has no interest in supporting us and making it possible for us to raise our kids and then go back to work?
So it's pretty easy for Carrie Lucas to say you shouldn't get paid family leave unless we take it out of your Social Security, because by German law, she might have had 15 years of paid family leave. Oh man, the hypocrisy is unreal. I don't know how long she's lived in Germany, but it is very easy to say that out of the comfort of a socialist country. Hey, by the way, you should leave. If you don't like socialism, you don't like that social safety net that they have in Germany, hey, come back here, live with the rest of us and suffer. So, and if you're outside the country, and a lot of our viewers are, I know that you've got to be in disbelief, but do you know that the United States is the only industrialized nation that offers no paid time off for new mothers? So theoretically, you got to, if you look, most of the people in the country live paycheck to paycheck. That means you have the baby, you got to show up to work the next day. The barbarity of that for the rest of the world is incomprehensible. Do you know that in 1993, we first passed the Family and Medical Leave Act that allowed for 12 weeks of unpaid leave. Before 93, if you took a day off because you had a baby, they could fire you. Like, oh, you had a baby, that's really nice. You're fired. You're not, back to the mines. If you're not working in the coal mines, you're fired, okay? A baby, I don't give a damn about your baby. You're gone because you're costing me a nickel of profit, okay? Now, you have to allow for 12 weeks, but it's all unpaid. I don't know how you're gonna survive. I don't know how your kid's gonna survive. I don't care. That's what the US government says, bootstraps. That's what they throw at you. Now, when we propose, and it has 82% popularity in the country because we're all sick of getting crushed. Can we have paid family leave? Well, Marco Rubio and Ivanka Trump have a special little trick for you. Let me take your energy around that issue and use it against you, and give you a terrible proposal where we don't actually pay for it and we ruin Social Security. Look, Donald Trump's a monster. I get it. I talk about it all the time. His daughter, who gets credit for being moderate, is no such thing. She's also along the same lines. But most importantly, establishment Republicans are okay. It's just Donald Trump. That's what you hear on cable news all the time. No, establishment Republicans like Marco Rubio are also monsters. They don't believe in Social Security. They don't believe in paid family leave. And he's the guy, and he's getting credit on TV every day for Marco Rubio's for paid family leave, when it's a goddamn trick. But nobody on TV has two brain cells to rub together, or they don't care they're part of the corruption. So they're like, don't worry, once we get rid of Donald, we'll have a good Republican like Marco Rubio in, and he will more effectively steal from you.
It's insane how little we really put America first, right? I mean, don't think about the context of that phrase. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking care of our own. We have no interest as a country to take care of our own. We have an interest to cut the taxes for the corporations. We have all the interest in the world to fund weapons manufacturers and private contractors and the Defense Department. But when it comes to taking care of our own and making sure that people live comfortable, stable lives, no interest. Drives me
look
crazy.
at the two stories we did today. I know we got to go on other stories, but the healthcare story, the Heather Holland dies because she can't afford a $116 copay. She had the flu, she's dead. Because that's what we do in this country, we crush you.
It's terrifying, it's
right?
terrifying.
Paid family leave, no, we crush you. We have created runaway robots. It's like a fucking it's like a science fiction movie. We created the robots, we programmed to maximize profit and crush everything in their path. Guess who's in their path? We are. We all are. So corporations have bought all the politicians, they bought the Supreme Court. Now they're systematically crushing us, so they squeeze every single red cent out of you. And if in the meanwhile you die, whatever, you gotta rewrite the code. Have I said it enough? Wolf-pack.com. Rewrite the goddamn code. We gotta get democracy back. I mean, we're the only industrialized nation that doesn't mind nonstop brutalizing its own citizens. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, believe it or not, there's one guy in the world who's a world leader, at least one guy who's more misogynistic than Donald Trump. And then I think that this is a progressive proposal maybe in Utah, but one that is not well-intentioned.
Right.
Or maybe it's well-intentioned, but
I don't know if it's a progressive proposal. Just come back, we'll give you the details.
All right, well, it's bad. All right, back on the Young Turks. These tweets are too good, I gotta read them to you. The Mad Lib says, if my Social Security benefits are a handout, then I'd like to stop handing in my part of my paycheck to FICA, please.
Yes.
Because that's my effing money and I want my return on investment. Goddamn right I'm entitled to my money. There you go, Mad Lib, earning your title and you're right. Sexy Speed Racer says, who's gonna hire all these older workers when they lose their jobs? Not their beloved corporations. I'm presently 61 and can't find a decent job. Screw the GOP. Exactly. Captain Jinglepants says, the Democrats have nothing to run on anymore. They failed the Dreamers miserably. They fought for nothing. They shot the government for nothing. They got nothing. It's over for the Democrats. Man, we got some bipartisan fire and fury here, and they both deserve it. And finally, our own Bart Kyle writes in. He's doing audio for us right now. My father died when I was 2 years old from a construction accident. My sister and I received bereavement benefits through my father's Social Security till we were 18 years old. It was used to keep clothes on our back, food on our stomach, and pay the bills to hold my family together. Social Security was definitely a safety net for my family when life throws you a curveball. Now, Bart's one of the hardest working guys here and will often close up here, okay? So don't talk to us about handouts, okay? It's so that we all take care of our own. We take care of each other, and that is what decent people do, and that is what decent countries do. Thanks for pointing that out, Bart. All right, what's next, Anna?
Okay. An elementary school in Utah is catching a little bit of heat, just a little bit, because of a policy that they had for their St. Valentine's Day dance. Now, the school administrators believe that it would be a good idea to let the females in the school know that they are not allowed to say no to the boys who ask them to dance. And one of the parents was justifiably outraged by this. When Natalie Richards reached out to the school principal, he told her the dance was set up this way for a long time, and there they never had any problem. Also, Weber School District official Lane Findlay says that the rule was intended to teach students how to be inclusive. She also said, "We want to promote kindness, and so we want you to say yes when someone asks you to dance." Okay. So basically these little girls are not allowed, based on this school's policy, not allowed to say no when a boy asks her to dance, because the feelings for the little boys tend to be a little more important than the feelings that the little girls have. This is such a bad idea, and I'm glad that the parent here, Natalie Richards, called them out on it. I don't know whether or not they're planning on changing this policy, but it sends a really bad message, because one of the biggest issues that we're seeing with this Me Too movement is the fact that the men who are being accused of predatory behavior or any type of misconduct had this sense of entitlement. And I think that it's societal conditioning. It is, you know, the type of culture that we've had in the United States for a long time, where men have been told time and time again that they are entitled to certain things. And also on the flip side, you're telling women that they should feel bad if they say no to a guy, that they should be more concerned about the guy's feelings as opposed to their own feelings. This sets a really dangerous standard, and I hope that the school changes their minds about it.
So I don't know if this is a progressive or a conservative thing, because it might be a progressive thing in that, like, you don't want people to feel bad or feel left out. So it reminds me of when they canceled hugging at graduation in some of the schools at high school graduation. Remember we did that story?
I don't remember
because of how the unhugged felt. Okay, I'm serious. That's a real story. Okay, so I don't know if we're not your run-of-the-mill liberals or whatever, right? But
I don't know if this is a liberal policy.
I don't know.
I haven't seen any politics behind this.
And it is Utah, which is of course overall very, very conservative. But anyway, it's okay if every once in a while somebody says no. And especially in the context that Anna's talking about, and these are 6th graders, and you're teaching them. The rule is literally called just don't say no.
This is crazy.
No.
This is crazy. This is insane. Okay, so for the sake of this conversation, let's extend this to a broader discussion about something that I actually didn't believe occurred, but actually does occur, and now I feel like we need to address it. The coddling thing. Okay, because coddling is actually happening. We're seeing it on college campuses right now, where students are losing their minds over speakers who don't agree with their politics. We can't have this happen, okay? We can't be overly concerned about people feeling offended or people getting their feelings hurt or crushed. This is life. Life basically presents you with a bunch of assholes, okay? Like, you're not gonna be sheltered from the meanies for the rest of your life. You have to deal with reality. You know, yes, boys and girls both need to understand that at some point in your life, you're gonna face rejection. You're gonna face rejection when you apply for a job, when you apply to go to certain schools. Rejection is just part of life. We need to toughen these kids up a little more.
Yeah, and look, sometimes it's a little overstated, but there are some places where they have the safe spaces, et cetera. But look, it depends. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any safe spaces. There should be some place where you could relax and know that you're not going to get harassed or assaulted, et cetera. And it's nice to go home and have your parents take care of you or something like that, or even in a dorm to feel like, hey, this is not the place where we're gonna debate, where we're gonna get attacked, right? But that's not the whole world. The whole world is filled with people who disagree, and rejection and surprises and curveballs and tough times, and you're gonna get knocked down. The only question is whether you get back up. Now that's not as good a Hallmark card as Anna's "The World is Full of Assholes," but that's the reality. Like the other day, my kid he's 7 years old. He was in a soccer tournament, and I was worried that they were all gonna get medals, right? Because they're all 7, and it turns out they weren't, and only the champions were gonna get the trophy. And my son was so excited to get the trophy. He wanted to play so hard. And they did, they got it, by the way, not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then he proudly took a picture with the trophy. That's how it's supposed to be. And if you didn't win, and there were plenty of times he didn't win, and I certainly didn't win, then you fight harder next time, and that's life.
I just feel like it builds character and it builds willpower. And I don't know, I know that I'm considered a millennial, but I just grew up in a different household, you know, where my immigrant parents basically told me, if you fail at something, it's not everyone else's fault. It's probably because you're not working hard enough. Maybe you need to do this. Maybe you should attempt to do things differently. If I got rejected by anything, like I did ballet growing up, right? If I didn't get the solo I wanted, they wouldn't go and yell at the dance instructor about how I didn't get that solo. You know, they would tell me, you need to work harder, you need to practice more. I just feel like this culture that we're setting up where everyone needs to be concerned about everyone else's feelings is a bad idea.
All right, and last two things on this. Look, this whole idea, and I've seen other liberals honestly teach their kids, they never want to say no to their kids because they think that's negative and not the right way to go. My parents said no to me all the time. You know why? Because we didn't have money. So hey, can I buy that? No. Can we get a bike? No. Can we get a TV? No. Okay, because we didn't have the money, and that's the world we live in, and that's okay. And then you work harder and you get it. I had to work until I could pay for my own bike and could pay for my own black and white TV. Yeah, that's how old I am. And then finally, I'm getting no's from women. Man, I got hundreds of those. So. And you know what it did? It helped me to get better and better, right? So you go and you cross your arms at a junior high school dance, and you realize that doesn't work. You go up and go, can I get a dance? And you say, no, that doesn't work. And slowly you get better at it, and you figure out, hey, how do I make this person happy and want to go out with me, etc. And if you never get that, and you just get fake yeses, it doesn't help you.
Right. No one is entitled to anything, period. Unless you paid into things like Social Security, then you should be entitled to that money. But that's a political discussion that I won't get into. But when it comes to social situations, you're not entitled to anything. So let's move on. All right, Duterte. This story is insane. Rodrigo Duterte, the leader of the Philippines, has said some pretty terrifying things about female rebels. In fact, during a recent speech, he said the following about women who happen to be rebels. Tell the soldiers there's a new order coming from the mayor. We won't kill you, we will just shoot your vagina.
Ooh.
He continued to say, if there is no vagina, it would be useless. And what he means there is that if it's a woman without a vagina, then she's useless, because that's the only thing women are good for.
So I had to read that 2-3 times to make sure that that's really what he meant. Like, really? And no, that's what he meant. He meant you should shoot them in the vagina, because if you take out their vagina, what good would a woman do? Man. He makes Trump look like a humanitarian.
So he has a history of saying misogynistic things, but more importantly, basically statements that are violent toward women. Let me give you some examples. He threatens women, but when he's challenged, he insists it was all a joke. Just last week, his spokesperson actually accused women of overreacting, and that the president's comments are, just jokes. He's messing around. I mean, that's funny. Come on, just laugh. His political friend was quoted as saying, Duterte has also made headlines for joking about rape of a kidnapped Australian who was later killed, and for telling troops to rape women in conflict.
So that's not a joke. And then, of course, there were rapes. And so, and when you're the leader of a country and that's the tone that you set, like he said, kill the drug dealers. And you know what they did? They killed drug dealers, they killed drug users, and then they started killing people that nobody had any idea whether they had anything to do with drugs, because he allowed vigilantism and thousands of innocent Filipinos died. So now when he goes to tell people raped women who you're opposed to and then shoot them in the vagina, likely that's exactly what they'll do.
I mean, right now, the vigilante justice is terrifying. Tens of thousands of people are being shot and killed with no due process, just simple suspicion of drug trafficking or drug use. And when you set that kind of culture up, when you embolden people to carry out this type of vigilante justice, which is really injustice, all sorts of innocent people are gonna lose their lives. And he's just basically sanctioning this type of violence against women. It's a scary situation to live in.
One last thing, he attacks female political opponents by making fun of their looks and judges them whether they're sexually attractive enough or not.
Oh, sounds familiar.
That does sound familiar. That's exactly what Donald Trump did to, for example, Carly Fiorina, who was also a Republican during the Republican primaries.
Mika Brzezinski.
He did it to Mika, and he did it to so many other women. And so it's a shade of difference. One grabs them by the genitals and makes fun of their appearance instead of the other one also makes fun of their appearance, says don't just grab them by the genitals, do a little bit worse.
And they both will say that they were just joking around once they get called out for their rhetoric. So, all right, I want to skip ahead to the food stamp story because I really want to cover it, so let's do it. Donald Trump has rolled out his recent budget proposal, and of course, it includes deep cuts to social programs and social safety nets, including Medicare and Medicaid. Another target for the Trump administration is the food stamp program, which low-income families rely on in order to put food on the table for their children. Now, recently, Mick Mulvaney, who is the White House budget director, was speaking about this during a press conference, and listen to the proposal that he just made. Take a listen.
What we do is propose that for folks who are on food stamps, part, not all, part of their benefits come in the actual sort of, and I don't want to steal somebody's copyright, but a blue apron type program where you actually receive the food instead of receive the cash. It lowers the cost to us because we can buy prices at wholesale whereas they have to buy it at retail. It also makes sure that they're getting nutritious food. So we're pretty excited about that.
So he used the brand Blue Apron, which by the way delivers fresh ingredients to consumers who purchase their product. But that is not what would happen under the model that the Trump administration is proposing. Now, keep in mind that the Trump administration proposed cutting food stamps by $17 billion in 2019 and more than $213 billion over the next decade. So if you think that the government would deliver fresh, delicious food to people who need food stamps, of course, you'd be wrong. Under the Trump proposal, which the Agriculture Department has dubbed America's Harvest Box, all households receiving more than $90 per month in benefits, that's 81% of SNAP households overall, would begin receiving about half their benefits in the form of government-purchased, non-perishable food items. So what falls under the category of non-perishable food items? Are those fresh foods that are healthy and nutritious for people? No, of course not. It includes shelf-stable milk, juice, grains, cereal, pasta, peanut butter, beans, and canned meat, fruits, and vegetables.
Only canned ones.
Because canned meat, canned fruit, and canned vegetables are really nutritious for you.
So, all right, why are they doing this? What are the problems with this? And then I got good news for you on why it's not gonna pass. So it's a twofer on why they're doing this. One, they cut the budget, so they gave away all this money to the rich in their tax cuts, so they need to find the money somewhere, so they're gonna take it from the poor. You need $90 a month. $90 a month.
$90 a month to feed your family.
Yeah.
Living high off the hog, right?
Yeah, but they're gonna take that away from you. Everybody in the top 1% got a tax break of over $50,000 per year, okay? The rich get $50,000 a year. For you, they're gonna take away your $90 because they gotta make it up. Number two is, it's going to be crony capitalism. They're going to give it to whoever gives them the more donations. They're going to say, you're going to get the government contract to give this food, okay?
That's right.
Now, they say, well, look, you could cut the price on all this food because at least we're buying it wholesale. Well, that seems to make some sense instead of retail, right? But wait, how about distribution? Now, normally when you give them the coupons, people go buy it on their own and you don't have to deliver the food to them. Well, that is about a third of the cost for Blue Apron as an example. Of all their costs is just distribution. So there goes a lot of your savings from wholesale versus retail. And then on top of that, how about if their person is a diabetic or they're a senior citizen or they're kids, they need different food. The logistics of trying to figure that out is a nightmare. And you know what that leads to? Government bureaucracy and big government. So it's not gonna work, it's gonna cost you more money, not less money. Now, is that why it's not gonna get passed? No. They do that for crony capitalism in a second, okay? No, it's not gonna pass for two reasons. One, there are just simply too many Americans on food stamps and a lot of them are Republicans. So in places like West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, I'm keeping it real.
Mississippi,
and they're going to come out and go, wait, you're going to cut my food stamps? Then I got $1.50 extra on the tax cuts per week, but I just lost all this money in food stamps. I don't like that. Like they tried tolls in Texas and then people rebelled, right? And then the second and more important reason why it's not going to pass, because you know who's against it? Walmart, Target, and all the other giant stores.
A huge portion of their revenue comes from food stamp recipients. So they're already going after the government over this proposal.
So normally you get your food stamp and you go to the Walmart, probably where you work, because they don't pay you enough for you to be able to live without food stamps, and then you spend the food stamps at Walmart. If the government sends you the food, then you can't shop at Walmart. Walmart is a giant lobbyist. Okay, they're going to send all their guys to lobby, and they're going to buy all those politicians and make sure they kill this bill. So that's my guess as to how it'll go down. But it is another terrible Republican trick to redistribute the wealth from the average and poor Americans to the very top.
Also, I always find it fascinating how the Republican Party consistently argues that Americans need less government in their lives. They need less of the nanny state, less of the government bureaucracy, but at the same time, they propose ridiculous things like this that would essentially have them picking and choosing what you eat if you don't make enough money to put food on the table for your children. And by the way, some might say, well, I mean, if you're in a situation where you need food stamps and you're using, government money, maybe the government should be able to tell you what you can and can't eat. But think about the number of Americans who actually have full-time jobs and they still don't make enough money to put food on the table for their kids. I mean, that is the real issue here. The fact that we have full-time employees in the US and they're paid so little, they're not paid a living wage, and these corporations have to be subsidized by the government in the form of food stamps for their employees. I mean, this system is so messed up. So all those millions of people, tens of millions of people that you see on food stamps, don't think that they're all sitting on their couches watching TV and they're lazy. A lot of them do have full-time jobs.
That's right, and they still can't afford it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, last story for you guys.
All right. A Pennsylvania pastor was caught in his vehicle in a well-lit neighborhood. He was in the back seat, and in the front seat was a man who was naked and tied by nylon rope.
I thought you were going to say naked and afraid.
Doesn't seem like that gentleman was afraid. It seemed as though that was a consensual situation, okay? But nonetheless, Pastor George Nelson Gregory made a really bad decision when he parked his vehicle in a well-lit neighborhood because it was easy for people in that neighborhood to see what was going on. One resident actually called the cops because he was concerned that his daughter could see the naked man from her bedroom window. So when the cops showed up, they found the situation. Again, the pastor was in the back seat, naked, tied up man was in the front seat. And the story seemed to change based on Gregory's account. So let me give you the details. Now, first, officers found the 61-year-old Gregory sitting in the back seat, another man completely nude and bound by nylon rope sitting in the front seat. The pastor told police they occasionally met up to play with each other.
Okay, well, bless your heart.
He also said, I have nothing to hide, I did nothing wrong. But later, he kind of switched up his story. He said that cops totally made that up. He never even made those statements. In fact, here's what really happened. He said, quote, I was counseling a young man with a drug problem. It did turn strange, but it wasn't my doing, okay? And I was adamant that I'm not participating in that way. And so that's when the police pulled up and they assumed things, but I'm standing by my story. It's not true. I won't deny that he began to take his clothes off and propositioned me, but I will deny on a stack of Bibles with God as my witness that I did nothing.
Okay, look, if he had left it at the first statement, I did nothing wrong and it was consensual. And by the way, the naked man says it was consensual. And we're done with it. Who cares? You do whatever you want, right? But he brings his wife into it. He says, my wife and I have been counseling this guy, the drug thing. Then what does the drug thing have to do with the nylon rope, right? And you said, he's like, there was nothing I could do. There was nothing you could do as he took his shirt off and then his pants and then his underwear and then his socks. and then he tied himself up in the nylon rope.
Exactly.
Okay, and there was still nothing you could do. Oh my God, getting out of the car. You obviously couldn't do that. You had to stay and counsel the poor guy.
I have to jump in. So look, part of me is irritated with this pastor because of the hypocrisy. The LGBT community faced discrimination because of religious people for a very long time and still do to this day. But part of me feels really bad for him because he's been living this life for a long time, and that must be a terrible existence. So I have a lot of sympathy for him, and I hope that one day he can live his authentic self, his authentic life.
Yeah, and in the immortal words of Anna Kasparian, you do you, boo.
Yes.
If you want to tie a dude up with nylon ropes and have at it, Hoss. But just don't deny who you actually are. Okay, we got to go, guys. Bye-bye.